I got a stack of records here, a stack of records there. I got records scattered all over everywhere, but I'm looking for one that I can't.
Greetings. Great to be back here in Allen. I've got a program for you that if you grew up in Texas in the 50s and 60s and 70s, what have you, should resonate with you. I want to start off with a picture that, let's see if I can. This is top 10 records in Oak Cliff. This is about 1958. This is a great reference point for where I'm going to probably start our journey. There was this time in radio, and it really kicked into high gear in the 50s, through the 60s, and kind of diminished in the 70s with the way that radio stations were run, and it practically disappeared by the 1980s. And it was where you could have local bands having local hits and be local heroes in their hometown, especially in a larger community. And in Dallas-Fort Worth, that was driven by a couple different radio stations. We're going to be listening to stuff that they put upon us. KLIF, apparently I have some sort of allegiance to them because that was my go-to station in the 60s, and I started hanging out there in the 1970s, the mid-70s, when I was starting my broadcasting career. KEIL, which at this time was a top 40 station. It hadn't quite morphed into an adult station. And if you notice, there's one thing interesting. At this point, which is 1967, all the disc jockeys were named David. Davy Lee, David Wayne, Ron David McCoy. It was because they were going after KLIF and they perceived themselves as David the Giant Killer. That was their thought. And if you were over in Fort Worth, KXOL. So these are the stations I'm drawing from. I'm going to also draw from WRR and some of the other radio stations in town. But a lot of this happened on 45 RPM records, because 45 RPM records were the coin of the realm at the time. There would be boxes like this that would show up in record stores. This one's from 1961, and it would be full of the latest record from some local band that was hoping they could get attention. This happens to be by a guy called The Unknown. He was trying to ride the coattails of Elvis getting out of the army. He recorded a song called I Have Returned. It didn't go anywhere. This is very common. They would put out the record, they would have 100 copies pressed up, and it would fail. But every once in a while, it would hit, and there'd be a radio station, there'd be a disc jockey or what have you that would be very excited about it, and suddenly start playing it and playing it and playing it and turning this thing into a hit. And if the local act was together enough, and it could be more often than not a bunch of high school kids, they'd go out and they'd start getting gigs, playing at parties and what have you, and kind of ride the coattails of this thing for a year or two. If you've seen the movie That Thing You Do about the Wonders or the Oneaters, whichever you prefer, that's a pretty true story. That happened a lot in the 50s and 60s and even a little bit in the 70s. So we're going to start a journey here with a few of these records. And I don't know how many of these you have heard of or not, because they do kind of cover a bit of time. Let me go way back. This is a great example of how you could get a hit record. The short way to get a hit record. Let me show you the performer here. That's him on the right with the guitar. That is Bill Mack. And he was a radio disc jockey up in Wichita Falls in the early 50s, and he was cutting records that sounded like this. Let's see if I can get him to play. Come on, Bill, it's your turn.
Here's a little boogie that I think you ought to know. It ain't too fast and it ain't too slow, but it's a boogie. Hey boy, hey boy, hey boy, hey boy. Hey boy, hey boy, hey, play my boogie now. Well, I seen a little dog, he was limping down the street. He done the limping boogie to my boogie woogie beat, he done my boogie. Hey boy, hey boy, hey boy, hey boy. Hey boy, hey boy, hey, play my boogie now.
it's kind of easy to have hit records if you can play your own records on the radio station. And that happened a bit. It happened with Bill Boyd. He would record at WRR, and then he had a radio show where he was playing his records, and he was sometimes playing with the band live. So, yeah, that sort of thing could happen. He ended up getting a deal with Imperial Records. Lou Chudd was looking for acts around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and Bill Mack caught his attention. He was also sucking up a lot of the talent over at the Big D Jamboree at the Sportatorium. So it was a natural thing to pick up somebody like Bill Mack. He cut a lot of records for Imperial. Let's go to number 2. This one is from 1958. This was, it turned up, it's by Jackie Hurst, and it turned up on a lot of charts at the time on this little local label called American Records. So let's see what Jackie Hurst sounds like. Very typical 1958 Teen Weeper. Sing along.
King of dreamers, that's what I'll be until I hold you and find that you are real. Don't keep me dreaming, give your love to me. You never notice.
Whatever the bands were hearing on American Bandstand or hearing on the radio station, they would try to do that sort of style. And sometimes they would be a couple months behind the trend, but a lot of times they would be, you know, pretty spot on with what was going on in pop music in 1958. Jackie Hurst must have sold several copies of this record, because I see it about, you know, back in the 80s and 90s when it was hitting a lot of estates. I'd see this about once every 3 or 4 months. I'd see a copy of this record. So there was a lot of them out there. And now I'll play you an example of a record by Jerry Wells and the Royal Answers. I really should get a better picture than that. Jerry Wells, I think, was 15 at the time. This is an example of a record I wish was a hit. It wasn't, which is kind of sad. This guy had so much energy, and for a teenager, his voice sounds like he's really given it a lot of energy. So here's the Royal Answers with Jerry Wells with "Is This the Place?"
Well, I woke up this morning after a night on the town.
He has a bit of a Texas accent.
I just hit the sack and was sleeping sound, when all at once in the window was a face. A little sharp man yelled, "Say, mister, is this the place?" "No! Is this the place where the commons come to job? Is this the place where the cats come alive? Is this the place where we have a ball? Is the little sharp man, you can hear him call. Ow!
That is a delightfully shambolic record. The piano sounds like it's about ready to come apart in pieces. The guitar player sounds like he's about ready to get his fingers caught in the strings. I just love this record. It's very rare. If you've got a copy of this lurking in your stereo cabinet somewhere, yeah, you could definitely have a night in the town on the Royal Answers record. It's on Rise. It has a little blue label. You'll know it if you heard it. Who we got up next? Oh, the Five Masks. Interesting, since we led with a clip from Rock Baby Rocket, the Five Masks were actually in the movie. They were a black group on Jan Records. Jan was based out of, if you know the Meadows building on Central Expressway, right near SMU. They were based out of that very modern building, and they actually had several hit records on that label. And this is one of the earlier of them. I think this is a pretty nifty little record. It is very much of its time. If you want to see the full clip, go check Rock Baby Rocket. It's out there on YouTube. And yeah, good group. Very much a doo-wop sort of thing. A lot of people don't associate Dallas with doo-wop music, saying that's more of a Northeast thing. There were quite a few doo-wop groups in Dallas. We had a little bit of everything. This is another guy that I really like because he has connections with some people that I really like as well. Big Al Downing recorded for the White Rock label. Yeah, kind of like White Rock Lake. And these were all kind of the brainchild of Jim Lowe over at WRR. And Jim Lowe would actually record these in the WRR studios after hours and then would spin them up onto 45s, which he would play on the Cat Caravan show. And the Cat's Caravan show, very influential show, late nights, playing a lot of R&B records for young folks. And this sold a lot of records. It sold enough that a Philadelphia label called Carlton picked it up and put it out nationally and signed Al Downing for a couple of his singles. And then he had a career that went on probably about another 25 years beyond this one. This is people call this a rockabilly record. I don't know if that's really fair. It's not really a rockabilly record, but it's a lot of fun. It's a very Texas record.
With the mule down on the farm, down on the farm, down on the farm, rock and roll taking over my farm. The rooster won't crow, chickens won't cluck, walking around the barnyard doing the hucklebuck, down on the farm, down on the farm, down on the farm, rock and roll taking over my farm. Yeah.
In 1958, April of 58, that went to number 17 on the charts here in Dallas. It sold a lot of copies. You used to see this thing turning up all the time. Another record that I used to see a lot was by Gene Summers. Now, Gene Summers had this great little band, very showy, and they were on Jan Records, who we saw a little earlier with the Five Masks. And this is probably one of their best remembered tracks. It was his first record called Straight Skirts.
She wears a straight skirt, ooh-wee, 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 straight skirt, ooh-wee, 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 straight skirt, ooh-wee, 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 that's what my baby wears. She wears a tight skirt, ooh-wee, 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 real tight skirt, ooh-wee, 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 tight skirt, ooh-wee, 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 that's what my baby wears. She got the cutest figure I ever did see, and when my baby walks by, what she does to me, she wears a tight skirt, ooh-wee, ooh-wee, ooh-wee.
And of course, he had to follow it up with another one because that got so much traction. So he followed it up with Got a Lot of That.
Well, you got a lot of that, you got a lot of this, you got a lot of love, and I ain't gonna miss, gonna miss. No, gonna miss. Well, you got a lot of that, you got a lot of this, and when we get together, we're gonna reminisce, reminisce. Reminisce. Well, wherever you go, wherever you be, baby, you better be leaving me.
Those two records sold really well in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They got a lot of airplay in 1958, that summer. Across town, down in Oak Cliff, there was another guy who was making his bid to be famous. He was with a group called the Big Beats, but when he made his debut record, he put it out under his own name. And it's this guy, which you might recognize. There's a young teenager from down at Sunset High School named Trini Lopez.
Read the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. It's all down there in black and white. It ain't wrong to rock, we've got a right to roll. Let's pop, baby, let's rock, baby, go, go, go. 'Cause we've got a right, yeah, 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 the right to roll. Right to rock, the right to roll. Rock, rock, rock and roll.
In the announcement for this show tonight, you saw me sitting at a table with Trini Lopez. So that's what he looked like at the dawn of his career. And a picture that was autographed for Top 10 Records, which was the store that I showed you at the very beginning as well. Let's go to another Dallas personality. This guy was playing, he wasn't, I don't know that he ever played any of the shows at the Sportatorium. He might have played a few of those, but he played every little country show he could get onto, going all the way out to Texarkana and all the way out to Waxahachie and then to Weatherford. He was all over the place as a teenager. He started his music career when he was just, I think, like 10 or 11 years old, and kind of found his groove in 1958, 59 with this record, which kind of haunted him for the rest of his life. It's Joe Poovey. Groovy Joe Poovey.
Everybody falls in about 12 o'clock and they all do the job, and the job is to rock. Ripper, rapper, ripping up the keys, pounding 10 long fingers on the 88. Just like Johnny B. Good, his name is up in his ass, pounding.
You could tell that Elvis had a deep and profound effect on music around the Dallas area. But this guy kind of went in a different direction. This was a record that was embraced by Jim Lowe over at WRR. It was by a guy named Ray Sharp, and even before it was able to come out on a local label, it got scooped up by Jamie Records up in Philadelphia. I don't know quite how they found it, but this became a career-defining song for Ray Sharp. And I bet you know this song.
Well, now they call my baby Patty, but her real name was Linda Lou. Well, now they call my baby Patty, but her real name was Linda Lou. She's so fine, fair, and pretty, you never know what my baby's gonna do. My Linda Lou. When she...
How many of you remember that one? Linda Lou, yeah. That was a great record. I think he probably had to play that at every show. It's just people expected it. This guy, we met a little earlier. We saw him in his Modern Guys. This is when he was starting. He kind of bristled at being put into an ascot. He thought it was a little too upscale for him. But when he was the Blonde Bomber down at the Sportatorium, and this record actually came out on Sportatorium Records, it was knockout.
The rock and roll daddy has done passed on, but his bones keep rocking long after I'm gone. Roll on! Rock on! Yeah, now on! Yeah, rock on! Well, there's still a lot of rhythm in his rocking bones. Well, rocking bones! Yeah.
That was a very poignant song in all the memorials that were attended by Ronnie's friends. Because yeah, he was definitely he was all that. Scotty McKay. Now Scotty McKay is a guy who could have come up a couple times. He had a pretty good career in Dallas. I'm a little confused as to why this record, his very first record, came out on a little label out of Westbrook, Maine. I have no idea how they discovered him, but Scotty McKay made his debut like this.
Girl I go for and she so gets attention, she can rock and roll to any dancer. You wanna mention when she's shaking all the other chickens run from the scene when she's shaking. Oh, she's the queen. Well, now, I keep her shaking, baby. Oh, won't you shake it, child? Shaking, baby, keep her shaking, baby. You rock and roll it, child. I keep her shaking, baby. Oh, you really move it, child. Shaking, baby, keep her shaking, baby. You really groove it, child. Crazy little mama, really rocks it right, 'cause my chickie is a sticker rolling dynamite. Keep her shaking, shaking, baby, baby. Oh, won't you, will you, maybe? Shaking, shaking.
That record went to #1 in Dallas. #1. Huge hit record. I don't know if anybody remembers it, but for a couple weeks, every teenager was into rock and roll and dynamite. Even got picked up by Parkway Records. Came out about the same time Chubby Checker was doing the twist on the label. Now this one is one of the first records ever by Bruce Channel. It wasn't a hit, but I wanted to play it because it shows an influence that he had that's not evident on his later hit records like Hey Baby. This is called Will I Ever Love Again? And it's very clear that this has been made to sound like a Buddy Holly record. It's from December '59. Buddy's already been gone almost 10 months at this time. I played this record for Maria Elena, Buddy Holly's wife. And I said, this is probably one of the best sounding Buddy tributes that I've ever heard. And she was kind of surprised, like, you mean that's not Buddy? And it's like, no, it's Bruce Channel in 1959. I think it's remarkable. They've even done the backing vocals to sound like a Crickets record.
Will I ever love again? Can this broken heart be mended? Will my first love be my last? Will I ever love again? Who wants a broken heart that is far beyond repair?
Now, it's a really great record the way it is. When Bruce Channel broke with Hey Baby, and he had that harmonic on there by Delbert McClinton, King Records, who put this thing out originally in 1959, there's Bruce, by the way, they reissued that song and they dubbed a harmonica onto it to make it sound more like Bruce's current records. It was an abomination. That version, the original version from 1959, is where the magic was. Now we're into 1960, and Dallas has a new group to contend with. I think they're from down in Pleasant Grove, and they were monsters at live gigs. They were playing everywhere, and they were the band to hire. It was the Nightcaps.
You get a nickel, and I'll get a dime. We'll go out and buy some wine, drinking wine, wine, wine. Drinking wine, wine, wine. Drinking wine, wine, fine wine all the time. Go to school around 9. I get in the corner and I drink my wine, drinking wine, wine, wine. Drinking wine, wine, wine. Drinking wine, wine, fine wine all the time. You get your girl, and I'll get mine. We'll go out and buy some wine.
It's kind of a generous rewrite of an early 1950s song called Drinkin' Wine Spodioti, sorta, kinda sideways. It was just the right song for the times, and that thing became a Dallas hit that endured. It would pop up in the charts and be a bestseller for about 3 years. Got reissued again and again and again, came out on a national label, and that was the lightning in the bottle that the Nightcaps had always tried to recapture throughout their career. Let me show you their next record. This one actually went to number 7 locally in June of 1961, and it's the Nightcaps doing their version of a Hank Ballard and the Midnighters song.
Babe, I don't know why I love you. I don't know why I feel this way. Babe, I don't know why I love you. I don't know why I feel this way. But I think about you, mama, 24 hours of the day. Well, it's 5 o'clock in the early evening, yet it's 6 o'clock.
Did anybody have a chance to see the Nightcaps when they played live? They used to play a lot in the 70s and 80s. They were around clubs I know. I must have seen them a dozen times. This record is really it's another really odd one. This was the number 6 record in Dallas in October of 1961. And in October of 61, we don't really know what surf music is yet because the Beach Boys haven't quite made it to Dallas yet, that sort of sound. But we've got a local group called the Destinies. And the Destinies have cut this thing. And it's pretty much almost a surf record in Dallas, where we don't have that much surf. It's pretty cool, though. That's a really tight band, and I wish they'd cut more records. It's on Alta Records, by the way. It was based out of Dallas. There was a distributor, a record distributor called Big State. And Big State put records on all the jukeboxes in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and across North Texas. They were the ones that made Elvis Presley a big hit act, because they had a lady who was working there at Big State named Alta Hayes, who pushed those Elvis records like crazy. And enough so that she got her own label and started signing up local bands that she could push onto jukeboxes. That's probably how the Destinies ended up getting their big break, is from Alta Hayes. Now, here's another person that I think he was still performing up until a few years ago. It was a guy named Jimmy Velvet. And there were two different Jimmy Velvets. There was this Jimmy Velvet, and there was a Jimmy Velvet spelled it with an IT at the end. This is the Dallas guy. And he had several local hits. This is the one that most people know, called Sometimes at Night. Went to #1. It's a remarkable thing when a record goes to #1, because that means you're really getting success, and you're probably going to have a career in Dallas for the next 10 years based off of that record, and Jimmy certainly exceeded that. Now, this next guy, Finimo, he was being played on the R&B stations in the Dallas area, and this record sold a lot of copies. I used to see it all the time, and it's a great little thing called Just Ask for What You Want. So here's Finimo.
Food.
It's a great R&B record. I'm sure he was probably playing places like the Peacock Lounge and the Heidi Ho and what have you. He did cut records all the way up through the 60s. I've got some of his other records, and they're very much like that. And a label, Duchess Records, was based out of New Orleans, so very much congruent with their scene there. Now, this next record is a country record. I wanted to play this because I can't find any radio station that admits to actually having played this single, but I find it around a lot back in the 70s, 80s. I used to encounter this record a lot. Obviously, 1962, the space race is in full orbit, and Sonny Sheeter is doing a country record that is flirting with rock and roll and a topical song.
2, 1. Well, come on, baby, won't you orbit with me? We'll make an hour about 2:45. Wait for the countdown, you and me. And come on, little baby, won't you orbit with me? Come on, baby, won't you orbit with me? The bills are furnished and the house rent's free. The gas bills and electricity. And come on, little baby, won't you hurry with me? We'll fly, fly, baby, and a sky high, baby. We'll fly, baby. Come on, little baby, won't you hurry with me?
A steel guitar, a rock guitar, and space sound effects. Yeah, that's pretty special stuff. Okay, now we've come into a record that's, there's more of a story here than I have been able to work out, but we're going to try to explore it together. And that is Hully Gully Now by Big Bo and the Arrows. This record came out in 1962. And I think this record is the root of a much bigger hit record. And so we're going to look into this and see if you agree with me. Let me play a little bit of the big hit record, and then we're going to, let's see if I can find it here. Okay, still, I'm sorry, this thing is kind of gotten all discombobulated here. Let me play a little bit of this guy, and then we will, I'll try to find the record that I think he's pulled it from. Okay, there's Big Bo. There's a couple portions of the song to pay attention to. This sort of Hully Gully rhythm is the first. Okay, he feels good. Now, when he gets into the verse here, listen to what how he's setting it up. Watch it now, watch it now.
Yes, I know.
1962. Mama told Papa about a song she heard.
And Pop told Mama, don't you believe we're gonna holler? Uno, dos, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, pule, pule. Watch it now, watch it. Hey, y'all.
3 years later. Certainly you mean Hully Gully. Is it just me? Is there a little... Now, Big Bo and the Arrows were a band that played a lot of the R&B joints up the Jacksboro Highway and across Dallas and Fort Worth. They cut a lot of records. They were doing very, very well. Sam the Sham, a.k.a. Sam Samudio, was in Dallas at the time, putting together his band in '62. And I have a little doubt that he was familiar with Big Bo and the Arrows. But Sam the Sham went to Memphis, and that's where he first recorded Wooly Bully for them in 1964, 2 years later. And Memphis, they wouldn't have known that Hully Gully record. But it became a local hit in Memphis, went to MGM Records, and the next thing you know, they're advertising it in Billboard. It's the brand new hit single, and the band has got their finery posing like they're from somewhere other than the Dallas area. But it's a curious case. I'm not going to cast aspersions, but a little suspicious to old George here. Let me try this one for you. This is a group from down in Houston. This record by Big Sambo, or Big Sam, it was pressed 2 different ways, was an enormous hit in Houston. It sold about 50,000 copies down there very quickly. It sold a lot of copies up here as well. It was a great, great party record. That's a very sweaty record, isn't it? It's just terrific. The other side is a song called The Rains Came, which this record came out in 1962, and there was a band down in Austin led by Doug Somm called the Sir Douglas Quintet, and they would end up taking out The Rains Came and turning it into a hit using a little more of the Doug Somm style, and it became a big hit for them. This is a great double-sider on Little Eric Records out of Houston. And let's continue with another one. This is a very, very, very different style. This is went to #1 on KLIF in December of 1962. And it's Johnny Starr. This record sounds to me a lot like maybe the Fleetwoods, if you remember Mr. Blue and all that.
Sleep tight, just dream a little dream of love. I place you oh so far above the one you think I'm dreaming of. Sleep tight, sleep tight, don't cry.
That's the fully produced song. That was probably what took it in the charts. I found a couple years ago, I found the original master tape to this recording in a barn up in Sherman. And you get to hear the song without any of the overdubs. And it's quite different. It's a little more timeless, but it doesn't sound like 1963 so much.
Sleep tight, just dream a little dream of love. I place you oh so far above the one you think I'm dreaming of. Sleep tight.
The girl chorus is gone. The sweeping strings are gone.
Don't cry.
So when we're talking about production in records and how production can make a hit record, there was a guy in town called Major Bill Smith. And Bill Smith had a label called LeCam. And LeCam basically had 2 enormous hit records. And then he spent the next 30 years trying to recapture that spark by putting out anything that moved. He's got an incredible catalog of songs that are just throwing anything at the wall and trying to see what would happen. He got really lucky with a pair of teenagers named Jill and Ray, and put out that record locally as Jill and Ray with a song called Hey Paula.
Hey, hey, Paula, I wanna marry you. Hey, hey, Paula, no one else could ever do. I've waited so long for school to be through. Paula, I can't wait no more for you, my love.
A very familiar record, I'm supposing. Now, the first time he put that record together, Bill Smith was the master of the micropress. He would take a new song like Hey Paula, and he'd press up 25 or 30 copies of the record. And he would take it around to disc jockeys. What do you think? It's a cotton spigot smash, right? He was trying to get the thing on the radio. And when he put that record out for the first time, he got a lot of feedback. It's kind of missing something. It just needs a little something extra. And he added some bells and some other stuff in the background. And I'll play you the original version of it. Like I say, there were only like 25 copies of this thing pressed. And we'll play these back to back, and you'll see if you can sense that little bit of difference that turned this into, we're not going to play it, into being a career-defining global #1 hit record for Jill and Ray, AKA Paul and Paula. Here's the original version.
Hey, hey, Paula, I wanna marry you. Hey, hey, Paula, no one else could ever do. Hey, hey, Paula, I wanna marry you. Hey, hey, Paula.
It's a very subtle difference.
No one else could ever do.
But it was what it took to get it on the radio, and he would do it. He was so pleased with the performance of Paul and Paula and Hey Paula that throughout later in his career, in 1972, he kind of retooled it and added some other instruments, and he did it in 78, he did it in 81, he did it in 82, he did it in 85. He kept trying to add new instruments to it, and a disco beat, and we'll raise the tempo. He tried again and again and again, but I mean, it's like you don't mess with success. That was a brilliant record for them. And you know, the strangest part about the whole Paul and Paula career is they were big in Japan. And they went to Japan, and actually the Japanese record company, Philips, had them record 2 songs in Japanese that they released there, and they got some traction. And then Major Bill put them out on LeCam Records in America in Japanese. And I think I might have the only copy of that record. I think he pressed up 25 copies, and people went, no, why are we going to play Paul and Paula singing in Japanese? Well, Sukiyaki was a hit by Q Sakamoto. It was a very big hit. And I'm sure Major Bill was thinking, cotton picking? I got a Japanese record I can put out by my heroes, Jill and Ray, Paul and Paula. It didn't work. I'm not going to play the Japanese record for you, but trust me, if you find one, it's pretty rare. Let's go to the birth of another group that came out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area that was just terrific. They were taking a song that they had heard in New Orleans and turning it into their own kind of Fort Worth version.
Your love for me will always be here to stay so.
That is Delbert McClinton in the middle.
Yes, no matter what you do, you gave me love when there was none.
Record went top 10 in Dallas, got a lot of airplay, wound up on a lot of jukeboxes, and I heard that record well into the 70s. Delbert McClinton in the center there. This wasn't even his first record. His first record was in 1959. He had been knocking around quite some time, and by 1963, he had already been to London and been on a couple of tour dates with the Beatles, where he had ended up showing John Lennon how to work a harmonica. So their first big hit locally, but certainly not Delbert's first day on the farm. This is, we talked earlier about how being a disc jockey, you could influence what was played at radio stations and turn stuff into hits if you were subtle enough about it. And that's where we get to Kirby St. Romain. You see, Scotty McKay gets a credit. Kirby St. Romain is, let's just say this had some influence from this particular radio station. You got some people that work there that were involved in the record. And for the summer of 1963, went number 15 on Cliff.
Summer's really coming. Summer's on its way. No more hearing that school bell ring. School let out today. Summer's really coming. I got myself a date.
You see we've got it produced by Max K. Lipscomb up there on the right-hand side. Max K. Lipscomb is also known as Scotty McKay. I told you he was going to show up again here. Robert Price and the Exotics were out of Mesquite. And this was their very first record, and it did well enough for them. They got picked up on Mercury Records, and it got a national release. This is Hey Little Girl. It's the beginning of a great band called the Exotics. We're going to meet the Exotics a little later on. That was where they started. And it was a good little record, but they drastically needed to change their sound because after all, it's October of 1963 and their whole world is going to change in about 4 months when the Beatles turn up on Ed Sullivan. And it will have that impact on music across the whole of the United States. Now, by 1963, by the fall of 1963, we've already had the Beach Boys, the rise of the Beach Boys, and surf songs don't exactly make that much sense in Dallas, but hot rod songs, yes, they make sense everywhere. It has everything a teenage boy would want to have. It's got guitars, it's got cars, it's our car song for crying out loud. And if you see, we've got Scotty McKay and Kirby St. Romain involved in this one as well. They were just in our ears with Summertime's Coming, a very, very different sound. They were looking to have a hit with anything they could. This one went to number 8 on KLIF, The Shutdowns. Now let's go to 1964. And this is an interesting guy. This is it's a piece of paper I rescued from a whole bunch of correspondence that was getting ready to hit the trash. And it's talking about Joe Ramirez and the Jumping Jacks. They were a local band that caught the attention of the American Booking Corporation. And they were doing really well. They were getting some very, very decent money for the early 60s. And this record will kind of show you what they're about. This is a pretty monstrously fabulous instrumental. I don't know if you remember, the Push was quite a big dance at that time, and yeah, he's capitalizing on it. Great instrumental. That was a lot of guitar players were trying to learn that sort of licks. Now at the same time, when music's moving that direction, Gene Summers, who we met earlier doing the rockabilly stuff, he was kind of reinventing himself, maybe leaning a little more country, a little more pop, and he had an enormous hit with this record, so big that it ended up coming out on 3 different labels.
Big diamonds, big blue diamonds on her finger, instead of that little band of gold.
Familiar to anybody? That wound up on a lot of jukeboxes. It wound up on 3 different labels as well. It just kept getting reissued and reissued and picked up and sent to another place. It was a hit in Dallas. It was a hit in Houston as well, and down in San Antonio. This guy's name is Ricky Pearson. He actually contacted me trying to see if I had an extra copy of this record, and sadly I didn't. It's a nice one. It's got a little bit of airplay around the Dallas area. I just think it was a really nice version of the Benny King tune.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light to see, no, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me, and darling, darling, stand. Come on, baby, stand. Come on, baby.
This is a nice version. It's a little more rocked up than the Benny King version. Oh, these guys. LeCam, Major Bill Smith again. He was trying to have a hit with whatever he could, and he found this group, the Uptowners. I don't know who exactly the Uptowners were. Major Bill didn't exactly keep great records of who he had in the studio. But here again, it's got a bit of airplay. And we're going to play you another version, another record by the same group.
Stop a drinking coffee. I can stop a smoking too. But I got a real bad habit. Well, I can't stop loving you. Oh yeah, your sweet love, I gotta have it. You're my heart's desire. You set my soul on fire. Yeah, you.
Now, in a little while, we're going to revisit LeCam number 126 because the Uptowners, they put out another record, and Major Bill, I told you he didn't exactly keep the best records. He put their next record out with the same number on the same label. I'm sure it added a lot of confusion when they were trying to make orders at record stores, but we'll get to that in a second. Here's Wes Reynolds. Not sure where Wes is from. The record came out of Denton, the Bismarck record label, and he's doing the Dallas Push. Because the normal push is not enough.
I can see you doing the Dallas push, push, oh yeah. Let me stand beside you and do the Dallas push, push, oh yeah. The Dallas push, push, hey baby, push, push, hey baby.
It does sound like something out of Animal House, I gotta admit. Let's try to another one out of Dallas, Bob Hayden. I only discovered this record about 4 or 5 years ago. It's on Night Records. Night Records was run by Bob Sanders, and he had a lot of great, an ear for picking up Dallas talent. And this was a nifty little record. This went to number 4 on KLIF in March of '64.
So hey Suzanne, you know I love you more than anyone can. And every night until the stars up above, you're my love, Suzanne. So hey Suzanne, you know I miss you more than anyone can. And every time I see you, it's just grand. You're my love, Suzanne. Well,
It's a great little record. I can understand why it went so high on the charts, although in another week or so, it's going to be all Beatles on KLIF. I'm just warning you. May of '64, we had a record that sounded like it could have been released about 3 years earlier by Floyd Dackel. And Floyd Dackel had this great little combo, and they were playing a lot of dates around Dallas, but this is the record that really put them over the top. It was a song inspired by them playing one of their parties and watching a child of one of the people at the party dancing to the band, so then they decided they needed to write a song about the child because, well, you know, you got to, right? So that was Franny. This was recorded at the Pit Club. Not easy to have a hit that big in the wake of the Beatles in the summer of 1964, but he managed to do it, got to number 11 on the charts in Cliff. And the record has so endured over the years that if you find a nice clean copy of this and you're looking to make a little bit of change, the record sells at around $100 these days. It's astounding. It's sold a lot of copies, but most of the ones that I've seen have just been played to death. Speaking of played to death, another record that got played a lot around here was Sam the Sham. Finally, you know, he coming out of Memphis, he comes back to Dallas, and before Wooly Bully is released, he's coming back to Dallas with this version, and it's a version of a song that had existed a couple of years earlier out of Memphis, and he just did his own Dallas spin on it, and had a hit.
I just moved in my new house today. Moving was hard, but I got squared away. When bells started ringing and chains ran loud, I knew I'd moved in a haunted house. Still I made up in my mind to stay. Nothing wasn't gonna drive me away. When I see something that give me the creep, had one big eye and two big feet.
This is a great little record. It sold a lot, and it got onto a lot of jukeboxes, probably being pushed by Alta Hayes over at Big State. Now, we had talked about the Uptowners earlier with You're a Habit. Here it is, their next record, number 126. Again, and one of the most unlikely love songs I think that ever came out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
You wonder why I'm crying. Well, I've just heard the news. My baby's found another love and left me with the blues.
Now that song needed to have been done by Steve Miller. I would have loved to have heard the Steve Miller Band do Garbage Man or Trash Man, or I think it should have just been called Garbage Man. They called it the Trash Man. Let's go on to another record that, let's see if I can find it here. I'm looking for, it's another one that's disappeared. Oh, there it is. 1965. This is a soul group getting their start in Dallas called the Masqueraders. And the Masqueraders, unfortunately, when their record went to press, they misspelled the name of the band, so they became the Masqueraders. It was close. They'd get it right on all their other records. They would have a career that went well up into the 1980s. This particular record, again, I've had this record once and I had to sell it for a friend of mine and I think it sold for about $1,200. A remarkable record.
Talk about a woman. Talk about a woman. Ooh, man, I got a woman. Talk about a beauty. Talk about a beauty. Yeah, she's a cutie. Yeah, she's a cutie. And I love her with all my heart. We'll never part. Talk about sweet. Talk about sweet. You know she can't be beat. You know she can't be beat.
If I had to guess who they were listening to a lot, I'd say the Impressions. If you remember Curtis Mayfield and the Impressions, it sounds very much like an Impressions record. They did change with the times, winding up their career, I think, on Bell Records nationally. The Uniques with Joe Stampley. Not exactly from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but certainly built a lot of their career here with records like this. This was their first big hit here, going to number 13 on the charts.
She used to hold me close at the picture show. That was when she really, really loved me so. Then it came along like a stormy sea, not too long ago. Now she don't love me anymore.
Joe Stampley would have quite a big career in country music, but this is the way he kind of started. We talked about how if you're a disc jockey and you decide to cut a record, there's an easy place to play it if you work for the radio station. The fabulously talented afternoon disc jockey Jimmy Rabbit did just that. And in 1965, this record, well, it only got to number 31 on the charts. They probably thought it would be unseemly if it went any further. A very capable little slice of rock and roll. By 1965, we had this band. They were actually from Oklahoma, but they came down and set up shop in Dallas and got gobbled up first by ABC Records, who cut them loose, and then they wound up on Abnac and Jetstar, which were related labels, and had a couple of failed experimental records that came out that didn't quite catch the public's attention, but this was the one that really kind of launched them in a big way, going to number 14 and becoming a bit of a national hit, The Five Americans with I See the Light.
I can have you loving both day and night. My eyes are open, Lord, and I see the light, and it's alright. It's alright. It's alright. It's alright.
We will get to their other records soon enough. What we've heard up to so far, even though the Beatles have been a very big deal for about 18 months so far, you're not really hearing much British influence in the Dallas music scene. Not much. This record, I think, really kind of tips that on its head, though. It's a record that went to number 1 on the charts on KLIF, was being played on other radio stations such as KBox, and to me it sounds like a Dallas-Fort Worth version of a Petula Clark record. See what you think. Yeah, it's a little like Downtown, isn't it? Just a little bit.
I'm getting old, so tired of being
And apparently, 2 records, that was it. That was the end of her career. It's a very familiar story. It happened a lot. Back to Joe Stampley and the Uniques. I love this one. He actually cut this with a group from Tyler called Mouse and the Traps, backing him up.
You're walking down a sidewalk, just like you own the block. You're talking down to people, knocking things you shouldn't knock. You say you got 1 hour, and just to pass with me the time. Then you go meet somebody, baby, who's just dropping you a line.
You ain't tough, baby. No, not so much to me. You ain't tough, baby.
There's other fishes in the sea.
Yeah, that's not the Uniques backing him up. It's a totally different sound, and that is Mouse and the Traps. Our next record is something entirely different. 13th Floor Elevators. They came out of Austin. They had the lead singer, Rocky Erickson, had been in another band called the Spades, and he wrote this song, You're Gonna Miss Me. And the Spades had already put out 1 single that sounded kind of like the Kingsmen, kind of a Louie Louie sort of thing. And then Rocky came forward with this song. And it was transformative. It changed everything. This record came out in December of '65. And the 13th Floor Elevators will be credited by music historians as the first true psychedelic band, because they were. And you have to realize this song was done in an era where there are no effects pedals. Everybody's playing straight through the amps, just as it would sound in your bedroom. They're doing it all with their instruments. There's no effects being here. And all these records we've heard up to this point, this new single, it just sends things off in a completely new direction that is as shocking as it was when the Beatles made their debut a year and a half earlier. It was a crazy record, absolutely crazy record. You can see this is not long after. They get picked up by a booking agency that was had a guy here in Dallas looking for talent, and they signed him up for 6 months. They were getting him $500 a night, and you can see what made the band different. They have 3 guitars, which is unusual, drums, and an electric jug. That was a jug that you were hearing, literally a jug with a little microphone, and the guy is like into the jug going. That's what gave the band their sound in the beginning. It is an amazing record, and they only cut a few albums, but they changed the shape of music forever, and Dallas played a part in that. Austin as well. They were big in both places. We talked about Mouse and Traps a little earlier. They started off in Tyler. They played in Dallas an awful lot. You would end up getting Buddy Henderson, aka Bugs Henderson, coming out of that group in the 70s and 80s. But this was the record that really put them on the map in Dallas, and over at Cliff, this was a top 10 hit.
Some things are best not said. But since this is your public execution, I think I'm gonna go right on ahead. Mailman brought your letter, babe, where you told me how you feel, and about the things he said he told you, and that is I'm such a heel. But I could never be honest that to you I'd always lied. That he saw me take some other hide for a 2-wheel. Pony ride.
It might be the first time we hear Bob Dylan being an influence in Texas music, Mouse and the Traps. It really stands out on that one a lot. And then on later records, he kind of sounds like Sonny Bono. So he's kind of a little all over the place. We'd mentioned Scotty McKay. He's back. Going to #1 on Cliff when Batman was everywhere.
Coming out of the night, it's a black hooded figure. You've broken the law, now he's on your trail. Run, hasten, hurry up, say and start accelerating. Or wind up in the Gotham jail. Here he comes now. Look in the sky. It's a bat signal light.
Yeah, Batman was everywhere. I wanted to get down to the Dolls. This is a really cool little record. I kind of think that I had heard they were from Waco. And as far as I know, they put out one record, and that was it. A record called And That Reminds Me, which is a killer little record before the group disappeared. They showed up on The Beat, which was a color videotape show that was intended for national syndication out of Memphis, but it was filmed in Dallas. And these girls were really good. Somebody's been listening to their Motown records, I think. Yeah, that's the Dolls. What a great record. Oh, look at this. Number 1, Didn't We Have a Good Time? This is off of a K-Box chart. The local band, The Mystics, who were getting bigger than big off of one record. They had this one record, and there it is. Look at that. Mystics sitting at number 1 on Dot. Well, they weren't on Dot. They were on Spectra. And they did so well in Dallas, Dot Records picked it up, put it out nationally. It didn't have the power that it did in Dallas. It was a local hit, but it was a monstrous hit. At number 1 on Cliff and number 1 on K-Box. See if you recall this one. Didn't We Have a Good Time? I'm going to say that it sounds a little bit like they were influenced by Paul Revere and the Raiders to me. A great little record. I see that thing all over the place. There were so many copies of that sold. Let's go to the next one, which would be this. That's from a country station, KPCN. And you see number 1 hit record there. If you really want me to go, I'll go. This is Delbert McClinton again. A record that started out locally on Brownfield and then turned into a national hit on Smash.
If you really want me to, I'll go. It's not that I want to, but I'll go. If you found somebody who can love you more than me, if you really want me to, I'll go. I don't know just what you're trying to do. You told me that your love for me was true. I don't understand, my love, please tell me what to do. If you really want me to, I'll go.
Now I'm hoping that you might recognize that song, because it got so many spins back in the day. And here's this one, sitting at number 1 on the KLIF charts. When I was doing an oldies radio show, I used to get so many requests for this. And when you were playing in an oldies club, as I did down at the Sock Hop back in the late 70s, this was always had to be the last song of the evening.
The touch of your lips next to mine gets me excited, makes me feel fine. I've got it bad, but that's all right, long as you're near me every night. Your love so warm and tender, your thrill is so
course. How about this? Mouse and the Traps. We heard them a little bit ago. They had a big hit with Public Execution where they sounded like they were maybe a little influenced by Bob Dylan. On this next record, we're at April of '66. They're going in a totally different direction. I'm thinking maybe they heard the 13th Floor Elevators or something, because there's definitely something in their Coca-Cola. In 1966, things are beginning to change. Of course, there's another new player on the scene. We'd been playing stuff that was hits on K-Box or Cliff or KXOL. Now there's another new place kids are hearing records in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And it's a show called The Something Else Show on Channel 8. Now, The Something Else Show, Ron Chapman was the host, but Ron didn't have anything to do with picking the records. There were two of the guys who worked there, my friend Bud Bouchard, and another guy named Bob Cardenas. And between the two of them, they were picking the records that they thought, yeah, the kids will like this. And they started playing stuff like that a lot. And here's another record that they played a lot. It wasn't really being played so much on local radio. It was only got up to like number 22 on the charts. But over there on the Something Else Show, they had the band back week after week after week after week to play live on the television. And this record ended up selling quite a few copies. It's the Exotics. We met them earlier in 1963 on Poly Records.
When you see me start to look at you, and baby, you know I'm gonna be lonely. Come my way. If you see me start a falling, unless you wanna see me crawling, tell me that you're here. Stay with me. Come with me. Come with me. Come with me. Come with me.
Let's go back to KLIF and their ability to push their own disc jockeys into records that they would play on the charts. And we find a group that called Positively 13 O'Clock. Now, the hit song, Psychotic Reaction, was already a bit of a hit by another group from up in the Midwest, but around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Jimmy Rabbit, fronting Positively 13 O'Clock, turned their version of Psychotic Reaction into a bit of a hit. And it got picked up by HBR, the cartoon company, Hanna-Barbera.
I feel depressed, I feel so glad, 'cause you're the best girl that I've ever had. I can't get your love, I can't get affection. Oh, little girl, psychotic reaction.
And that leads nicely into Kenny and the Casuals. August of '66, went to number 3 on the charts. Look like nice young women.
Today, all meaning faded away. Tonight, a journey to time. No one will care if I ever return. It'll be a quick trip that never ends. It's been such a sad, sad day. I'm on my way.
That's another record that has remarkable value to it, Journey to Time. They put out an album as well. They were based out of Bryan Adams High School at the time, and then As they kept doing club dates and club dates and club dates, they put out an LP. I think they pressed up 500 copies. These days it sells somewhere between $800 and $1,000. If you have one tucked in your closet, treat it nice. It could be a very valuable thing. Here you go. We're finally there. Let me see if this sounds familiar. It should.
Things went wrong today, bad news came my way. I woke up to find that what had blew my mind. Western Union man, bad news in his hand, knocking at my door, selling me the score. 15 cents a word to read, a telegram I didn't need, says she doesn't care no more. Think I'll throw it on the floor. Got your cable just today, killed my groove, I've got to say. Western Union. Now you've gone.
In 1967, who's singing about getting a telegram? Well, 5 Americans are. They're from Oklahoma. I guess that's what happens in Oklahoma. Pretty record. That's the way the promos came out, looking like that. The normal ones were black pretty much everywhere else, but I thought that was pretty. And Scotty McKay, he's back again. Look at this. Yeah, oh, wait a minute. There he is. Scotty McKay Quintet. Now, we met the Exotics earlier with Come With Me, with that big keyboard. He got together with the Exotics, and they cut this record as the Scotty McKay Quintet. And I'll tell you a little something about this record afterwards. Another amazing Dallas record. So the record, they show it credited to the Yardbirds. That's where they got it from. This song had been around since the early 50s. It starts off with Tiny Bradshaw, as a matter of fact, on King Records. But the Yardbirds came through Dallas in 64 and 65. So they came through Dallas a lot. One of the most influential British bands to affect the Dallas-Fort Worth scene are the Yardbirds. This record is just a great example of that. It's actually a better version, in my mind, than the Yardbirds' own version. As you can see, the record times out at 2:28. Not long ago, I discovered the original master tape to this, and the song is almost 5 minutes long. It has 2 great guitar breaks that they cut out for the single because they thought it was just going to be a little too much for teenagers of the era. This is an odd one, Le Cirque. You think this might be a West Coast record because it's on Buddha Records, but it's actually, well, it's Mark Beno, and it's Leon Russell, and it broke out of Dallas. Went to number 10 in Dallas on Clips.
Find at times it's hard to live without you. Your image fades and dies. Daydreams lost on days not made for dreaming. We'll surely find some truth among the lies. Some magic minaret that I haven't found as yet. Guess I've
Yes, somebody has gotten their copy of Sgt. Pepper's, haven't they? Le Cirque there. Oh, let's go in a totally different direction. A group that I just dearly love is called Triste de Janeiro. And in May of 1968, this totally different record came out of Dallas. And this is a great example of a record that you would never guess was a Dallas record, but it actually was. And that's that.
Renee DeMarie, how can you see when your eyes are blinded by the night? You see your reflection in storm window pane. It is you turn to listen. You hear him call your name. Renee DeMarie, Renee DeMarie, Renee DeMarie. Taking your time, making your mind, biding your time.
Sergio Mendes, anybody? Yeah, sort of, kind of, but it's from Dallas. Look, that's taken at Fair Park. That's there's a music hall, I think, right behind him. It never came out on, it had one single, Renee DeMarie, which came out locally on GPC Records. And then they got picked up by White Whale, who had the Turtles. That was their big act. And the album managed to come out just about a couple months before White Whale, was speared by Ahab, I guess, or something. White Whale just didn't exist. I'm going to put in one more because I know Tom wants me to play it, and it's by our dear friend, Bobby Patterson. This record went to number 3. It's one of many tremendous records he put out in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
People, let me tell you what my woman told me today. She said, baby, I still love you in the same way. But you gotta take care of business like you're supposed to do. I ain't got no other choice. I got to replace you. You better listen to me, baby. Hear what I say. If you can't TCB, you got the TYA.
It's a killer record from our friend. And Bobby Patterson's still at it. I've seen him play in this very room. Well, that's a little bit of a journey of, what did we go? We did 17 years there. 17 years worth of local hit records. Records you probably won't hear anywhere else in the nation. And that's the shame of it, is that we had these bands entertaining us here locally, and they had their moment in the sun. And back in the days when radio stations, you could go to Los Angeles and it sounded like Los Angeles, or Detroit and it sounded like Motown. Those days are kind of gone in radio, but they were fabulous days, and we had a hell of a crop of bands here through the 1950s and 60s and up into the 70s, and I was glad to be a part of it in the 70s and 80s and in the early 90s, putting several of those bands in the recording studio myself. So there you go. If you want a local record for free, I've got some. They're not very good, but they're free. The price is right. And if you each gave me a penny for your record, I could claim this was the best-selling local 45 this month. Because local 45s aren't exactly a thing anymore. And I've got 400 of these that I need to make go away.
Great, George. I really enjoyed this. Do you have any more books coming out?
I've been thinking about it, and I don't know what it's going to be. I'm talking to my friend Pat Reeder about redoing Hollywood Hi-Fi and actually spinning that up. We've been working on the text, and we're talking about actually bringing it to YouTube in little, 2 or 3 records at a time. Hollywood Hi-Fi was a concept book we did some years ago, which was all about briefly. Movie and TV stars who cut records but who should have never been allowed near a recording studio. Yes, I'm talking about William Shatner, but I'm also talking about Betty Davis.
And Elizabeth Taylor.
And there are so many. There's so many people in the cast of Star Trek. We don't know why being out in space makes you feel like you need to get a recording contract. But you know, Leonard Nimoy, Spock, was signed up for a 5-record deal. He got the same deal at Dot Records that Walter Brennan did. And don't start me about Walter Brennan cutting records. So yes, we're talking about doing that book.
Questions, comments, protests? Juan, while they're thinking about a question, a comment and a question. I've met a number of these folks, and I was surprised because they were such wonderful showmen. And in their private life, they were very quiet and shy. I'm sure you noticed that too. Anyways, my question is, did somebody like Elvis, did you ever see any of these bands in his, the sounds that is, in his music?
Well, there were a bunch of rockabilly bands that came out of Texas. Texas had an incredible rockabilly scene as a whole, but those records weren't necessarily hits, but there was a lot of them. And record collectors prize those, and they're quite expensive. Especially the ones that are really, really primitive from 1955, 56. Elvis spent a lot of time in Texas. You probably have had a program about that, how in 1954 and 55 he spent he must have played 250 dates within like a year and a half in Texas. Texas broke Elvis, and that resonated with a lot of young kids that were experimenting with country music. And then they suddenly go, hey, this sounds more fun. So yeah, those records exist, but there weren't many of them that were actually big hits. I mean, even Johnny Carroll, with his prodigious talent, could barely, move the needle on Decca Records, a pretty major label.
Questions, comments? Isn't this fabulous? Aaron, get your camera out. I'm going to have my picture taken with George in front of that sign. But y'all can go out. Y'all can have your picture too. Thank y'all for coming. This will be on YouTube, so you can have a chance to watch it later. Because I'm sure you're like me, thinking, what about that fella and that fella? What was his name that did that song? Is Joe Ramirez still alive?
I have not been able to find. It's such a common name. It's hard to find him.
Yeah. Thank y'all for coming.